Greetings investigators! If you have been stuck inside with no new releases for a while, you may find replaying the same content has got a bit stale. Well, back in tutorial 27 we showed you some ways to shake up the rules for a fresh experience. Now we are going to explain how you can do the same with your deck building by introducing the theme deck. Normally in deck construction, the most important premise is that your design is as effective as possible. Now we are going to sacrifice potency for theme. If you are someone that gets triggered by the word suboptimal, then turn off this video now and book yourself in with a double session at your therapist this week. In the dark days before cooperative LCGs, card games not only came in random booster packs but were played competitively, often at large prestigious events with multiple days of qualifying. If you won your spot early on, or qualified before the event, or you weren't a skilled enough player to rank in the tournament, what would you do with your time? The answer was the theme deck, a deck you would play for fun that wouldn't be mentally taxing and would maybe get a laugh or two. With the introduction of Legend of the Five Rings, a game where your actions at an event could affect the storyline, the inclusion of cards in your deck for narrative purposes rather than efficiency was a real thing. The simplest idea was to only include cards which had something in common, usually some type of creature, like kobolds, or maybe it would only use these artifact creatures. But the most popular back in the day was the Goblin Deck, which was terribly easy to counter if your opponent knows what you're playing, but that wasn't the point. With collectible card games having way more cards than living card games, with plenty regarded as filler or non-competitive, this was easy to do. So, as the Arkham LCG has stolen everything else from Magic the Gathering, from rats to whippoorwills, we might as well pinch this concept too. Because of the smaller card pool, there simply aren't enough cards to make a deck entirely around cats, or dogs, or police, or librarians. And after 5 cycles and much whining on our part, you can barely squeak out a tome deck. The most obvious thing to do is find a card type that an investigator has an affinity with and go all in on it. In fact, it is so obvious that back in 2016 we coined the Wonder Wendy deck that only used events in the hope that these would synergize with her amulet. Basing any combo around a single one-copy card is a tricky proposition. In fact, you would probably be better off trying an event-only deck with Luke Robinson. And chucking out not only all your allies, but every asset cuts down on your survivability. But that isn't the point of a theme deck. You may only play it once. You may throw your hands up in despair mid-scenario, but you tried something different. Another similar example would be Silas Marsh, who has an affinity with skill cards, so you would build a skill card only deck. There is plenty of choice. In fact, you could choose to only use innate traded skill cards if you were particularly bonkers. A skill-only deck would also suit Patrice Hathaway, with up to 5 new cards per turn but only 3 actions to play them. Having only skills that use no actions and no resources to commit would speed things up for her. Now, if at this point you are thinking that's a neat idea but you'll just sneak in a Cornered and a Pete Silvestre, then that is awesome. But you aren't building a theme deck. In a theme deck, you will sacrifice everything to stay on theme. Which is why, if you're playing this multiplayer or taking it to an event, you need to discuss it with your fellow players and make sure they are cool with your idea. People play games for different reasons, and winning a scenario can be very important to some people. Hopefully the kind of people that stopped watching this video and discussed several minutes ago, but do try and play nicely. With the card pool growing, it is becoming more feasible to make decks based on traits. We already mentioned Silas Marsh and innate traded skills, but how about a Joe Diamond and insight traded events? Both of these are possible and practical, as neither skills nor events take up slots. Likewise, it is easy to build a cool and effective Dexter Drake or William Yorick deck that only uses assets. But what about a Daisy Walker Tome deck, or a Leo Anderson Ally deck, or any kind of Guardian Firearms deck? Now, there are signature cards and some player cards that can expand your slot limit, but these don't start in play, and like the Wendy's Amulet Conundrum, can really slow your deck down and make it unfun, depending on the luck of your card draw. But Remember, it is a theme deck, so you are including cards that contribute to the theme of that deck. Your Gun Bunny deck should include things like extra ammunition, custom ammunition, and Venturer. These aren't firearms traded, but they are firearms themed. Likewise, with an Akachi Charges deck, you wouldn't just be including assets which have charges, but Torrent of Power, which consumes charges, plus Twyla, Enraptured, and Book of Shadows, which restore them. Although, we won't blame you if you left out the notoriously temperamental Recharge. Another deck building restriction you will probably encounter is that of classes. As an example, most of your firearms cards are Guardian or Rogue class, and you can choose your investigator accordingly. In fact, there are currently 15 non-signature firearms, all of which are green or blue, except this one. So, what happens if you have an out-of-class card you are desperate for to complete your theme? Well, at level 0 you have two options. Pick a Dunwich Investigator, which can have up to 5 level 0 cards from different classes, or include a copy of Versatile, or 2 copies if you are crazy like a fox. But remember, this adds a mandatory 5 cards to your deck size, so you may find it hard to keep these extra cards on theme. The next option, and the nuclear one, is to go full neutral with Lola Haze. A Lola Haze Allies deck would be really interesting, as each class now has at least 4 allies which are level 3 or below. And because Charisma is a permanent, unlike Mitch Brown, she has 3 potential allies available from turn 1. And regardless of what role she is in, she maintains the static bonus from all her cards at all times. Because allies often come with bonuses, this would be a great boost to all those lackluster 3s. Well, at the beginning we did hint that this would be a good next step for experienced players, and it is, but this can also be a great aid to those who have never done any deck building before. If you heard this game was great and bought the whole thing and the internet told you to open every product and mix all the player cards together and are now totally lost, then a theme, not necessarily a theme deck, will help you with deck construction. If you want to pick a Guardian, probably not that one, and find the cards which have the firearms trait and also reference the firearms trait, that is a good way to easily construct a themed deck. If you want to pick a Guardian, preferably this one, and find the appropriate cards which have the ally trait and also reference the ally trait, that is a good way to easily construct a themed deck. And a bunch of allies make a very survivable investigator. What are you still doing here, Power Gamer? We told you to shove off at the start of this here video. This is just for funsies. The cornerstones of this game are managing enemies and gathering clues, and getting screwed over by the Chaos Bag. The broader your theme, such as an asset, skill or event only deck, the more you can tailor things to meet these needs. If you're making a firearms only deck, then consider teaming up with another investigator or using Roland Banks for his clue gathering ability, or similar high intellect investigator. Maybe not that one. Look, we don't do deck building videos, not after last time, but why not start off with a spell deck using Agnes and her signature asset, or preferably Marie and her bonus action, or even Akachi with her extra charges. There are more than 50 spells to choose from, in lots of classes, even neutral ones, which cover the big 3 of shooting, snooping and oh no! And they are evenly mixed between asset and event. Plus a lot of support cards, including help with the costs, be it resources or experience, and to boost your number of arcane slots as well. In addition to some very cool allies. Your favourite deck builder should be able to filter cards by trait, making it easy to start tinkering. So what are you waiting for?